What's going on, guys? It's Zite. I am back, and I am bringing you the revised version of the Krieg video that I've already put out. Why? Because I made some mistakes in that first video, and guess what, guys? You guys deserve a hell of a lot better than that from me. So with this build, it is actually the Mania Bloodlust build, and I will be starting in the Bloodlust section of the tree for editing purposes. But I will suggest, though, if you are leveling up as Krieg and trying to use this as a guide, that I would start in the melee tree, the Mania tree, because it's so much better for survival, basically. Bloodlust just really is more of a support tree for the other two builds. So let's head into the build. Alright, so the first ability in the Bloodlust tree is Blood-Filled Guns. Magazine size of all weapons increase for each stack of Bloodlust. Not a huge game-breaking talent, but at the same time, since Krieg is not particularly strong with weapons with this build, it allows him to do more damage with less time reloading when you're at 100 stacks. Especially since Krieg has no reload talent abilities. So as you'll see from the screen, my Sandhawk has 40 rounds, my Butcher has 13, my Bladed Weapon has 25, and my Herald has 13. So with a 250% increase, it ends up being 139 bullets for my Sandhawk, 45 for my Butcher, 87 for my Bladed Weapon, and 45 for my Herald. So that's a pretty significant increase, and less time required to reload. Taste of Blood! During the Buzzsack's Rampage, all damage you suffer is reduced. Damage reduction is increased for each stack of Bloodlust, so that's really good to have. As well as all that, the added bonus of Bloodlust stacks added to your stack total per kill, per melee kill I should say, during Buzzsack's Rampages, is increased by 30. So that really helps you maintain your Bloodlust stacks because they can be quite difficult to keep up when you're in your melee form. And a good suggestion is, while you're in your melee form, try and throw your Buzzsack when you feel you have a big distance to close to get in close and melee your next target. Buzzsack's Bombardier. So when thrown, your Buzzsack now has dynamite attached to it, which explodes on impact. So what this does basically is, on a normal hit, it normally does 193k damage. But now with the Buzzsack's Bombardier, it'll do 184k damage. So your base melee damage from throwing your weapon goes down, but it adds 184k explosive damage to your attack. For a grand total of 368k damage. Now for a crit, on the other hand, it normally was 377k damage that you would do with a normal melee throw. But again, it seems maybe it's a balancing issue, so what it does with the melee is it brings the melee down to 368k crit. Plus, again, only 84k damage, so there's no crits with the explosive dynamite on your melee. For an increase to 552k damage. The good thing about Buzzsack's Bombardier is it will actually scale with Strip the Flesh and any explosive relics or explosive mods that you might use, so that's pretty good to know. Alright, so the next talent we're going to fill up to 5 points is going to be Fuel the Blood! It's a kill skill, I'm not a huge fan of them, but killing an enemy with melee increases your grenade damage for each stack of Bloodlust. That basically means at 100 stacks of Bloodlust you'll be doing 100% more damage with the grenades, which is basically doubling. And if you use this with something like the bonus package, you're going to be doing stupid damage. Not to mention, paired up with Strip the Flesh, it'll do a shit ton of damage because Strip the Flesh will increase your explosive damage. But I take it more for the secondary on it, where any melee kill you get, you will automatically get 10 more Bloodlust stacks. So again, a good way to keep your Bloodlust stacks up and easier way to maintain them. Bloodbath. Again, this is kind of a filler talent and it's a kill skill. I only put 2 points into it, but I mean that could change depending on how you want to do your build. This works very well in tandem with Fuel the Blood and Bloodsplosion. Killing an enemy with a grenade or explosion, again the Bloodsplosion like I was saying, increases weapon damage for each stack of Bloodlust. An enemy killed this way has a greater chance to drop grenade ammo, so because I use grenades as utility for Krieg and healing, this is a very effective way for me to keep Krieg alive while I'm in my Buzzsack's Rage. So let's head on to the next talent. Boiling Blood's the next one you're going to want to pick up because it's going to give you a 2.5 second delay time on your stacks of Bloodlust decay. So what this means is it's going to make it so much easier during combat to keep your stacks high and maintain them while you have gap closing that you have to do when you're in your Zerker stance, because sometimes that can be rather difficult. Blood Trance. Duration of Buzzsack's Rampage is increased for each stack of Bloodlust at time of activation. Now, you'll want to put 2 points minimum into this, and you will not want to max it out. I say that because the duration is really long when it's maxed out and you have 100 stacks of Bloodlust. Utility with Krieg is a very important thing. Having the ability to use slag when you need to and throw a couple grenades in between your phases of your Buzzax rampage, very important. With that being said, Krieg now has 15 extra seconds per 100 stacks of Bloodlust to cause all that extra mayhem with his Buzzax rampage. But that also means he has that every 30 seconds to pop out and slag, throw grenades, and heal himself back to full with the Mania ability, Release the Beast. Bloodsplosion! Killing an enemy causes them to explode with an elemental nova matching the element of the damage that killed him. Non-elemental damage, such as melee, will cause an explosive nova. Nova damage increased for each stack of Bloodlust. Now the key to this is also the overkill damage. Any overkill damage is added to the damage caused by an elemental nova. So your next elemental nova is going to take all that extra overkill damage and add it to the next mob. So you can chain, like do a domino effect, chain this explosion to kill one mob and then another mob and then another mob and then another mob, and then you see that just increases in size, and you can easily hit the damage cap with this, and I have myself once. But I can easily get up to 75 million damage with this particular ability and a bunch of trash mobs. It's glorious! Alright, so now that we're done with the Bloodlust tree, we're moving over to the Mania tree, and I say once again, if you're leveling with this build, start with the Mania tree. But here's the first talent. Empty the Rage. We'll go 5 points into Empty the Rage because it'll give you a base melee increased damage. So without it, right now I'm doing 61k non-crit and 122k crit. We add in just the melee damage bonus from this talent, and that increases the non-crit damage 12% to 73k and some change. The crit version is a 25% damage increase, up to 147k damage. Now if we factor in the shield bonus for, say, using the Rough Rider as you see in the video, it'll increase it even further to 104k damage for the non-crit and 208k damage for the crit. And then you'll see at the very end of this little bit that I actually do 183k non-crit with all my relics and gear on, and 367k damage crit. So that's a pretty significant boost with the gear and this one talent alone. Moving on up, we've got Feed the Meat. Maximum health and shield recharge delay increased. So that basically shows you visually what's going on with the shield. So you'll get a 2.5 increase on the shield delay, which means basically any ability that takes power from being off is going to be used on a longer basis when your shield delay is down. As for base health, as you can see, I've gone from 138k to 207k for a 50% increase. Next up, we've got Light the Fuse, or as Boom Boom would say, Light the Fuse, bitches! Fight for Your Lifetime is now replaced with Light the Fuse. During Light the Fuse, you will pull out a bundle of live dynamite and can move normally. That's the best part about this ability. The bundle detonates when the timer runs out. If you kill someone, you are revived. Getting a revive with the bundle explosions gives you a bonus movement speed for the remainder of the time that was left in Light the Fuse. So basically it's better to kill something when you throw the dynamite than it is to explode, although the explosive at the end does cause a significant amount of damage as you see in the video. Light the Fuse really works hand in hand with this ability, Strip the Flesh. Explosive elemental damage increased, as well as bonus increased fight time in Fight for Your Life. Alright, to show the damage difference, I'm going to whip out my trusty explosive pistol. And as you can see, I'm doing 91k damage regularly and 36k crits with this pistol. So with 5 points in this talent, it will push it up to 104k regular damage and then 57k for crits. So the regular damage will get a buff of roughly 14%, as where the crits will get a buff of a little over 15%. Let's take a look at the Light Diffuse damage difference now that we have. We were doing 276k for bundle damage before, and 2,072k for the self-destruct at the end. But now, we're doing 359k damage, and 2,694k damage with the self-destruct. Both of those being a 30% increase. I don't know why it's different than with regular explosive weapons, but that's a significant increase. Thrill of the Kill is a bit of a filler talent, but it really helps with survivability for Krieg, especially if you're health stacking him and you're up around 500k health. This added increased damage while you overkill something really is a huge benefit for you and keeping you alive during your Buzzax rampages. Now the next ability we're working on is Salt the Wound. Now this is the melee damage I do without Salt the Wound, and it's roughly 73k for non-crits and 147k for crits. My wonderful assistant, whoa, yeah! I love saying it like that. I don't know if he's probably laughing about how I did that, but I love saying his name like that. Anyways, this is going to help me out demonstrating how this ability works. Krieg earns stacks of Salt the Wound every time he takes health damage. So that means your shield has to be down for you to maintain these stacks. They're much like the Bloodlust stacks. The only thing we're paying attention to is the melee damage, which you gain 7.5% for each stack that Krieg gets. At 20 stacks, you will max out at 150% increased melee damage. Keep in mind it'll be very hard to maintain these stacks. You'll most likely stick around 10 to 15 stacks at most times. Silence the Voices. This is one of the most unique and most significant melee increases in the entire build. The problem with it is that 12% chance to hit yourself. So it's very much risk versus reward, and I think the reward is very much worth it. Although there are times where the melee yourself will trigger 3 to 4 times in a row and can be minorly frustrating. So as you saw earlier, I was demonstrating the melee that I was doing with 73k and 147k before this ability, and of course the first thing I do when I go to test this ability is hit myself in the face. So now the damage that I do with this talent is 227k non-crit and 454k crit. To take that even further, when I go into my Buzzsaw Rampage, I do 681 non-crit throwing and 1,363 crit. That's ridiculous. Moving on to the final talent, Release the Beast, activating Buzzax Rampage when at or below 33% of your maximum health remaining, instantly refills your health bar and transforms you into a badass psycho mutant. That's pretty freaking awesome, I'm just gonna say. Increase melee damage and receive significant damage reduction for the duration of the rampage. Now the important thing behind this means if you're always activating it at 33%, you will always be able to regen to full health. So now when you transform into a mutant badass, your melee throws are going to do 865k damage instead of the usual 681. And your melee throwing crits will go from 1,363,000 to 1,731,000. So that's a pretty nice chunk of damage. Now keep in mind, this is also, all this damage has been done without gear that increases damage. I don't have mods on, don't have relics on, don't have shields on. So just keep that in mind because you're going to see footage coming up of a ton of damage with good gear going.